Another round of talks falling apart because one side thinks that the other side is going to bend to their every request and desire, while the other side is more concerned about protecting the integrity of something that they value and cherish than they are about the immediate financial impact of waving goodbye to a former member. I mean, it is actually astonishing that we're still seeing some of these same arguments circling the plug hole. David Frost, our chief negotiator, still essentially saying it's going to do the EU more harm than us on the haulage issue, which is one of the obstacles to agreement. It's going to, the EU can't afford to do this. Yeah, they need us more than we need them. Still doing that and still not understanding. And I think, to be generous, because you know how hard I've tried over the last 4 years to recognise that many, many decent people voted for Brexit under false pretences that are not entirely their own fault. I mean, listen, every racist I've ever met voted for Brexit as well, but it is grossly unfair to suggest that every person who voted for Brexit is by any stretch of the imagination remotely racist. I'd be maligning some of my closest friends and family members if I believed that. If you are a racist Brexiter, you have to pretend you didn't hear that. Okay, you have to pretend that I've never said that. I've said the polar opposite, and because you need to keep clinging to the lies, otherwise you're going to end up feeling even more stupid than you already do. But the notion that we as a country, even I recognise this, because we had 30 years of almost all coverage of this outfit being negative. We had no notion in this country of it being something valued and cherished. Even people that were in favour of remaining would caveat almost every comment with the acknowledgement that it's imperfect. Well, it's not perfect, but you don't really do that with anything else. I said to you, should we abolish the NHS? You wouldn't say to me, well, it's not perfect, but I think we should keep it. You'd say, no, we flipping won't. And yet, because we'd been gaslit and groomed for decades, we didn't see it as something valued and cherished. So when European Union countries, other European Union countries, and more pertinently perhaps their European parliamentarians, they sent very talented people to the European Parliament, so did we, but you don't know any of their names. The only names of MEPs from Britain that you know are Steve Bannon's mate, Nigel Farage. So and all the other assorted weirdos that ended up in there alongside him, and quite why they got so much coverage compared to decent politicians from a whole range of political perspectives is a question that is easily answered, because we've got horribly biased newspapers and commentators in this country. But that's the problem here. He's still not landing, is it? Why are they doing this? Because they really value the institution. They really value the principles, the political realities, the peace that's been brought. That's why they're working harder to protect the integrity of the single market and the customs union than the British negotiating team can understand. Because the British negotiating team is still coming from the perspective that this is a good thing to be leaving. So if one side is negotiating from the perspective that this is a right old rubbish outfit, thank God we're leaving. Anyway, now we're going to lay down the law on all the privileges and rights that you're going to let us keep even though we're leaving. That's one side. The other side is we're really proud of this. We're sorry to see you go. And we certainly feel particular sympathy towards all the people who understand what an epic error this is, what an epic act of national self-harm this is. But, you know, unfortunately, they're not our problem. James O'Brien's not our problem. The remaining 27 countries are our problem, and we're going to do everything we can to protect both them and the integrity of the single market and the customs union. So what you have here is a negotiation between two sides that are so far apart, it was always difficult to see how they were going to meet in the middle. On the one hand, David Frost and his pals are negotiating. This was why, although it was tempting and seductive to say we've got to send leavers to do the negotiations because that's the only way in which the extremists who voted for it are going to believe that we're doing our best. That was the worst possible thing to do in retrospect. I didn't spot this at the time. I thought it was probably a good idea to put leavers in charge. But of course, what you've got is a negotiation ongoing between two camps, one of which thinks that the other lot are idiots because they think it's a good idea to leave the European Union. And that's why a lot of this stuff isn't landing. We're still asking to be able to carry on using the jacuzzi after we've stopped paying for membership of the gym. We're still asking for that. We're still saying to Virgin Active that when we leave, it's going to hurt them a lot more then them not letting us back through the door is going to hurt me. We're still doing this. We're still saying, I know I'm not paying anymore. I know I've actually left, but can I still use the changing rooms? And they're saying, don't be silly. I can just about get my head around why you might have pretended not to understand that when you were trying to persuade other people to vote against their own interests. But surely you understand it now. And do you know what? I don't think they do. Because of that little psychological stroke emotional conundrum that I just described. The idea that it's a good idea to be leaving. If you're negotiating from that position, you're doomed. But of course, this was the one chance perhaps that Theresa May had. If she had explained that the negotiation process is damage limitation, she might have come out of things differently. But because she kept pretending that it was a good idea, because her job depended on it, the negotiations were set from the start, even the ones that failed when she was in charge. The negotiations were set from the start as almost taking place in cloud cuckoo land. Because our negotiation is an attempt to limit the damage we are doing to ourselves. 52% of the vote in 2016 was based upon the idea that we'd be doing something positive. So how do you do that negotiation? I'm not expressing sympathy for David Frost. I'm simply explaining how he's ended up in such a ludicrous position. He is negotiating from the position that it's a good idea to leave, which means the notion of it being damage limitation probably hasn't even entered his head. How can it be damage limitation when it's a splendid idea to do it? And if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think that possibly you've got a better grasp of this than me, then give me a call now and tell me what happened to the oven-ready deal. Do you remember the oven-ready deal? If there was an oven-ready deal, if Boris Johnson's propulsion into 10 Downing Street was built upon his successful delivery of what he called a million times an oven-ready deal, why now are both sides in the negotiating process saying it's looking increasingly likely that there'll be no deal at all? If you're interested, I think they're probably 50-50 now. There might be something flimsy, and Johnson will once again be relying upon the right-wing media to tell you that it's actually brilliant. You know, that it might look like a dirty old sock, but it's actually a beautiful, beautiful cashmere scarf. And that is kind of what they do. That's why the front of the Mail's very interesting today. It's sort of turning their guns upon Boris Johnson. So whether or not they'll be signed up to another con, it got a very different editor now to the one that they had when the biggest con of all was visited upon the British public. I do not know. I've got no particular insights into this. I'm a student of the scenario as much as you are. But that is what you need to understand. So let me see if I can find a text from an idiot. Yes, here's one. James, you sound utterly deranged, still can't cope with Brexit, eh? Or is it that ultimately you realise that you influence no one in capital letters? You need help, seriously. So that is kind of where you're left now. You're sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, I literally have sacrificed security and prosperity for a smeggy old sock. I feel completely stupid. I know what I'll do. I'm going to really shout and be rude to and use capital letters with the people that tried to warn me, or the people that have been explaining this for years. And the ultimate proof of this is the oven-ready deal. Who'd have thought that three-word slogan would end up being the most bogus, hollow, and damaging to the national interest of all? Even more so than Brexit means Brexit, even more so than control our borders, even more so than take back control, even more so than believe in Brexit. The real killer, after all that nonsense, the real killer was oven-ready deal. Because where is it, guys? No one's ringing me. Where is the oven-ready deal that we had, that was all ready to go? We had it, right? Yeah? Yeah. Where is it? 03456060973. I got another 45 minutes. I don't know about you. Where is it? So you listen to Donald Trump talking undiluted gibberish, and you know that some people are still grabbing their forelocks, still doffing their caps, still screaming at clouds. And then you ask a simple question about British politics. The whole of the general election coverage was dominated by that three-word phrase, oven-ready deal. Some of us screaming into the ether, influencing no one, as my friendly correspondent points out. Screaming into the ether, it's meaningless. Oven-ready deal doesn't mean anything.